Let's welcome in now investigative columnist at the Daily Signal and radio host Tony Kinnett, who was standing by for us. Tony, great to see you.
Oh, good to see you as well. What a presser. My goodness.
Where do you want to start?
Oh, I mean, the Trump talking over Carney. Carney kind of came in like Zelensky and tried to manhandle the president, and Trump just wasn't having any of it. I mean, my goodness. Then to cut him off at the end there and say, all right, that's enough. I've decided we're done. I can't help but laugh. That's hilarious.
I do think, I got to reluctantly give Carney a little bit of credit. He didn't go full Zelensky to that. And you could kind of see the wheels turning in his head when President Trump was talking about the tariffs. You know, I will say, previously President Trump had indicated that he preferred Mark Carney for some reason to win this election. And Mark Carney did win, and President Trump gave him credit for that. I mean, do you think anything substantively is going to change, though, when it comes to the tension between President Trump and Mark Carney? It does seem like, there's certain things that he wants and certain things that he thinks he can get and certain things that Carney doesn't want to give up.
And I think that's really the case. Carney is, in all of his forms, a banker. He comes from the international banking community, and Trump does have a history of playing those individuals like a fiddle. It's probably the best caricature of an individual that Trump is able to negotiate with an upper hand, too. Pierre Poilievre would have been a lot stiffer. The guy's more of a Canadian nationalist, a conservative who wouldn't be very easy to kind of bend to the desires the United States has. And you heard that at the end. Trump said, look, we're not subsidizing Canada anymore. You guys want your cake and you want to eat it, too. You want to be the strong, great white North? Well, pony up. And I think that's something that he will be able to get Carney to back down on, because if there's something that the Liberal government of Canada has never been able to do, it's hold itself up above water without really upsetting the Western provinces. And I think that Carney is going to have his work cut out for him in that. So I think that you will see a relaxation of kind of the tariff situation between the two countries eventually, but that will only come after the Trump administration gets what so far has been an unnamed concession from that government.
Yeah, and it was also interesting to hear Carney talk about toughening the border security. Not something that he ran on in Canada. We won't hold our breath to actually see if he holds up on that. All right, let's also talk about the hearing going on Capitol Hill today. We saw DHS Secretary Kristi Noem and a lot of Democrats reclaiming their time as she tried to explain why they need money to deport illegal immigrants. We've seen the success of the Trump administration closing the border. It is going to be complicated and difficult to get a lot of these illegal immigrants out of the country. But the plan now, Tony, I guess, is to give them $1,000. Do you think it's going to work?
I think that they'll definitely get some to leave the country. I do think that eventually, as certain immigration measures are ramped up, as soon as certain deportation measures are ramped up, you're going to see two things. Number one, I think you're going to see the national impetus as certain groups probably become rather unruly, that the nation is going to become more comfortable with groups being kind of shipped out en masse. I think the Supreme Court decision that's coming this summer, one way or another, is going to give the Trump administration very clear lines defined in which they operate. And I think that the situation is currently untenable. This very ambiguous, just throwing around the words due process, as was done on Capitol Hill this morning. I don't think that's going to be tenable, because that's actually the term due process is a term for how one is arrested, how one is charged, how one is carried out. That's different depending on the status of the individual.
And those who came here illegally completely ignored the due process aspect of this, again, when they came here illegally. One more thing, too, Tony. Have you noticed that the Democrats have backed off their direct support for Abrego Garcia, and now it's more about due process? Here's Chris Van Hollen talking to the local Fox station in Washington, D.C.
I'm not vouching for the person. I'm vouching for his constitutional rights.
He's not vouching for the person. He's vouching for his constitutional rights. That's why he went all the way to El Salvador. And we also have this hoax going on in the media where Abrego Garcia is still considered the Maryland man. The Trump administration reminding us, too, that this guy who was doing naughty things with a corpse on the subway in New York is not, in fact, a Brooklyn man. He's also an illegal immigrant. And then we also, when you look back at the Lake and Riley story, the murderer in that case, too, was referred to as a Georgia man. And you just wonder if the media is ever going to learn, because nowhere in common sense America are these people actually the Maryland man, the Georgia man, or the Bronx man.
No, of course. And he was originally the Maryland father until it came out, according to court documents, that actually those were that was another guy's kids that he was supposedly claiming fatherhood over, and again, then of course he was an autistic father, with all this other kinds of nonsense to make the most sympathetic person possible. And it turns out when they tripled and quadrupled down, we found out far more about this guy's history that was extremely gross. And I don't think they're ever going to learn. I got to tell you, I think they're just going to double down until they evaporate into angry dust.
Interesting image there, Tony. All right. Tony's going to be back with us. We got more to talk about in just a little